In the spring of 1995, 17-year-old Robin Murphy vanished after borrowing her mother's car to see her boyfriend at a local plaza. The car was found, but Robin was gone. Just months before, another young girl, 12-year-old Josette Wright, had disappeared from the same community. When Josette's body was discovered, 2 young men were arrested, tried, and convicted for her murder. Authorities insisted the cases weren't connected, but the town was left with fear, unanswered questions, and a growing sense that something larger was being overlooked. This is part 1 of her story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Amy.
And you're listening to She Goes by Jane. At the end of this episode and every episode, we will be joined by a special guest who will read an original poem by Amy Baker about the women we're featuring. This week, we are joined by Nora McLellan.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Amy.
The story that we're covering today, just so you know, needs a lot of space.
I'm guessing that because the first thing you said to me when you arrived today was, so many words.
So many words. Yes.
So many words.
Yes.
We're going to have so much to talk about.
There is so much to talk about, like so much that I was just like wafting around my house, like trying to explain this story to my husband, being like, does this even make any sense? So hopefully it makes sense here. But like, this is, to be clear, I had to expand out. This is a double episode situation. It is also going to result in 2 weeks worth of newsletter content on my newsletter, Girl Hunt, just to contain some of the things that just won't get covered here.
Can you remind everybody how to find Girl Hunt one more time?
Yeah, so Girl Hunt is on Substack, but you can also find it on girlhuntmedia.com. And there will be extra pieces on there just because this is a lot.
All caps, one word.
All caps, one word, Girl Hunt.
Girl Hunt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a riff on Manhunt and not anything weird.
Just to clarify, right?
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Now, to start, I want to add that I came across Robin's story when I was researching cases from 1995. And long-term listeners will know that sometimes I get captivated by an era, by a year, right? And 1995, that stands out to me because I was 13 that year. You were slightly older.
What, 16?
Yeah, so this is the entry.
I graduated in 1995 and I was 17, or 96 and I was 17.
Okay.
So I was 16.
Okay, so this is the entry point of my teenage years, right? And the one thing that I haven't really talked about on this podcast, but I have written about in my Substack or in published essays, is that when I was a teenager, I absolutely did not think I was going to make it out of my teenage years. And that's largely because my brother was incredibly abusive to me. And that really escalated a lot when we were teenagers. So fellow sibling abuse survivors, hi. But that also makes the sense that telling stories of women and girls from that time period would just really resonate with me and why I keep on going back to 1995, right? So we've done an episode about Nicole Russo, who actually was a person who seemed to have a lot in common with the teenager that we're talking about today. We also did an episode about Yolanda Panek, who was a young mom at 21 when she was killed by her former partner. We have another episode in the works about Diane Van Reeth, whose husband was not who he seemed to be. And there's an episode already out about Ruth Loader, who was an elderly cancer survivor who was kidnapped by 2 young men. So this is a year I just keep having been coming back to.
Right. And those teen ones really resonate with me because they are similar ages to us. And to think of all the life that both of us have lived from then till now.
Yeah.
It's really, really sad to think about how much they missed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just when you think back to those years and kind of what was going on.
The 90s were wild to begin with.
Yeah. And it reminds me of the types of violence, not just that I was experiencing, but that was surrounding us at the time. And I think maybe that's just true for, this time, this era as well. But the 90s just to me, stand out as this really dark and uncomfortable time. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think I had a different experience. Right. So it's not that dark, but when I look back at it, it was, the behaviors were so bad, but they were also we weren't calling anyone out on that. Where I feel like now, when somebody does something wrong, like there's still wrong things happening, but there's a lot more people that are around to be like, yep, that was wrong, and help the situation one way or another.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, help to kind of like validate who was actually in the right, who was actually in the wrong, and back them up, but like in a more logical way. In the 90s, it was just like, oh yeah, that's just how people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, we're gonna dive into some of this is very like 1990s era specific. So for our listeners of our age, like
as Amy calls us, old.
Look,
the old listeners like us, right, Amy?
No, we're just a little more vintage at this
Whoa.
point.
Whoa.
Yeah. Now, okay. So we are going back in time. It is Sunday, April 9th, 1995. This is when 17-year-old Robin Murphy, she tells her parents she's going to go meet her boyfriend of 15 months, Matt Esposito, at Nichols Plaza in Carmel, New York. Now, Matt, he works at Burger King there, and for local teens, like the Burger King and this plaza is kind of a regular hangout spot. And the two, I think they were planning on having dinner together. So Robin borrows her mother's Oldsmobile and drives to the plaza. This is not far away. It's like a mile-ish away. But she never makes it to dinner with Matt. The next day, the Oldsmobile is found abandoned in the plaza's parking lot. Robin is gone, and there are no clues about where she might be. Days turn into months. Months turn into years, and the story of Robin's disappearance actually becomes a tangle of speculation, secrets, and failures, and her case would soon be tied to the murder of another young girl, to wrongful convictions, to sexual assaults, to missteps by investigators that continue to cast long shadows across everyone involved here. And we're going to touch on all of that across 2 episodes. So, fair warning, there are a lot of names and threads that at first may feel disconnected. And I'm going to guide you through them as carefully as I can. But also a content note before we begin, the episodes do include discussion of sexual violence against minors. And I'm not going to share gratuitous details, but some difficult information is necessary in order to understand the case. At the center of this all, though, is Robin, who was a bright and creative teenager with big dreams for the future, who has now been missing this year for 30 years. Robin was born on January 11th, 1978. At first, it was just her and her older brother, Jamie, who was about 5 years older than her. Around this time that Robin turned 8, they were joined by Tom, another sibling, and a few years later, the youngest of the family, Judy. The family lived in New York City, and her father worked as an elevator technician. But at some point, around the time she was like maybe 9 or 10, they relocated to Phoenix. After staying there for 4 years, they relocated again, this time to the small town of Carmel, New York. Carmel's an interesting place. It's just outside of New York City, about 50 miles away. It sits in close proximity to Connecticut, and it's relatively close to a few other towns and jurisdictions, which will be a key point in this story as we continue. Carmel in the 1990s feels a lot like most rural places. There wasn't necessarily a lot to do, so teenagers kind of made up their own entertainment, so parties in the woods or catching rides out of town to head to concerts, right? And this is really where Robin was growing up, and everyone who knew her described her as shy and sensitive, even if her outward appearance didn't give off that vibe. So she started dyeing her brown hair black, painting her fingernails black, slicking on black lipstick, and wearing black clothing. So Vanessa, again, you, Robin, and I are sort of contemporaries, right? So it almost seems hilarious now, but I can't even begin to emphasize how uncomfortable people were at the time with things like wearing all black or using like black nail polish, like adults.
I was about to say, not people our age.
No, but the adults.
The adults. Yeah. I remember even like comments on some of the clothing I wore, and it was funny because it would be like that adult that really doesn't, it's not relevant. Like my parents were fine with how I dressed because I was a little bit in the like the grunge stuff, you know?
Right.
And so it was like a lot of like combat boots with dresses and stuff like that. And I had a hall monitor one day be like, you know, that look isn't cute. And it was like a male hall monitor in his 40s.
You're like, thank you, I didn't ask you.
Like, I'm not here to be cute for you, dude.
No.
Like,
I'm here for me.
I'm here for me and what I want. But yeah, so
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hilarious now because, like, honestly, I was thinking this as, like, my kid has access to a plethora of, like, nail polish colors. And, like, now it's just like, oh, you can go get, like, black nail polish anywhere. But, like, in the 90s, it was just, like, edgy.
Yeah. Well, now it's considered, like, very sophisticated and elegant. Like, you can even wear it with a nice dress and stuff like that, you know? And then it was like, oh, my God, she's obviously into really bad things.
Right.
Because that nail polish is black.
That's how you know.
Yeah.
Now, Robin, at the time, she was listening to what the newspapers at the time called edgy rock bands.
What were the edgy rock bands?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Nirvana.
Oh, no.
And the Ramones.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Like, I can't even get into how, like, weirdly uncomfortable, like, a lot of adults were in the 90s. So, in fact, like, has someone written a book about this? Should I write a book about this? Because it was an era. Now, Robin, though, she took it a step further. She started a band.
Okay.
Yeah. With her boyfriend, Matt. They called it Lost Generation.
I mean, yeah.
True. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Now, the two, they recorded a short demo tape, which was about 5 songs long that circulated locally. Robin did percussion, and the two of them sang the words, which, you know, the newspapers said they sang it angrily.
Wait, why are the newspapers, like, talking about? What are the newspapers talking about? What are we trying to paint here?
Like, yeah. So
what are we
disappearance? This is
the
how they were.
Edgy rock bands and the angry singing. What is that supposed to feel like when you're reading this article of a young woman who's gone missing? And
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were definitely trying to paint.
We're putting a slant on that, aren't we?
Yeah. Now, I will say most of the lyrics actually were dark, like, but in that I'm an edgy teenager kind of way.
Value, right? Like, we all go through that stage. I'm sure if we were looking at, like, teenage Amy's poetry, would it be very angry?
I mean, I wasn't writing poetry at the time.
Okay, what were you?
But my short stories were quite dark. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so some of her lyrics, so this is a song, Love Tears. She sang, "My house is very cold. God, I wish I was dead. Tell me what to do. I can't seem to find you." So, yeah. The content of the songs often referenced death, suicide, and violence, which, again, were used against Robin when she disappeared, with many suggesting, like, she could have ended her own life or she ran away. But her boyfriend, Matt, insisted, like, this was not the case. And her mother, Judith, said, "That's the kind of poetry you write when you're that age. Dramatic stuff." It could be how she felt for a while. She was always writing stories, poetry, everything.
And I think if you looked at, like, teenage girls writing from the beginning of time, you'd see that kind of theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's, you know, when it is.
1995 or 2025, right?
Right. Or 1800. Yeah. You're going to have some very dramatic, like, I just wish I was dead. Yeah. Everything's so terrible.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And something that was true, though, is that Robin was not happy with her school experience. At the end of the school year in 1994, she dropped out. Dropping out was much more common in the 90s, about 12% of students, which today it's about half of that. And in Carmel, it seemed like this was actually a pretty regular occurrence. So I wouldn't necessarily say her decision to drop out of school was unusual, but it was clear she was unhappy with the school situation.
Probably more in rural areas always, right?
Yeah, so there are rates, you know, increase. But by October of that year, Robin had actually gotten a job stocking shelves and cashiering at ShopRite. And that was in the same plaza as the Burger King her boyfriend Matt worked at. In fact, that plaza is also sometimes called the ShopRite Plaza because of the store being there, because I don't want any locals coming for me for misnaming the plaza the Nichols Plaza. It goes by many names, apparently.
That plaza.
That plaza. Now, her relationship with Matt, pretty serious. He's 3 years older than her. The two had talked seriously about continuing their relationship, even having kids together one day. And it's something that her mom was aware of. She said that Robin actually also talked about having kids someday. So she's making plans for the future. And to level up his seriousness, Matt even gave her his class ring to wear. So that was a big deal.
So it doesn't look like she's just trying to get out of the relationship or get out of anything.
No. So, like,
she's got plans.
Yeah, she's got some plans. Like, she does have some stuff going on, like unhappiness in school, right? But then also she was working and doing other things, right? And making music. So, but that brings us to Sunday, April 9th, 1995. And that's when Robin tells her parents she's going to go meet Matt at the Burger King, but he never sees her that night. The next day, the two were supposed to join other friends and go see the Ramones in Poughkeepsie. So, a not too far drive away. And Robin had been obsessing about this concert. Her friend Mark said she was ecstatic that she was going to go see the Ramones. And Matt was a bit more like blunt about it. He said that's all she wanted to talk about. Ramones, Ramones, Ramones. She just liked their sound. But Robin was a no-show for the concert. The same day that she was supposed to be at this concert, her car was found in the parking lot. And besides being left there, there's nothing wrong with the car, nothing to indicate what might have happened to Robin. On the 10th, so that Monday, Robin is reported missing. And though this isn't explicitly stated in the papers, I get the sense that despite her family's insistence that Robin would not have harmed herself, that she would not have run away, her disappearance is treated like either of those two options. Mm-hmm. And police seem very sluggish to respond. It's not, in fact, until Thursday that a deeper search of the area is conducted. Robin's co-workers from the ShopRite start combing around the area around the shopping center, which is like behind there. It's very like hilly and wooded. And there, along with police, they find some of Robin's belongings in a small grassy area. It was her empty wallet, her keys, her purse. Now, despite this find, the sense that I get from investigators is that they're still considering this as a runaway situation because both her friend Mark and her boyfriend Matt make statements the next week to the papers emphasizing that this wouldn't even make sense in Robin's case. Mark said that the number one reason that he didn't think she ran away was because of her plans to see the Ramones. And Matt said, you don't drop your stuff in the back of the woods and run away. It doesn't make sense.
Right, so they found the car in the parking lot. Like, what? If she was going to leave her stuff, wouldn't she just leave it in the car?
Right. Like, so why would her stuff be in the back? Like,
it really doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So Matt is like, this is not a thing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not until Friday that kind of deeper searches of the woods behind this shopping center like get underway. And police become concerned that Robin could have just wandered back there and possibly become injured by slipping and falling. So they're very like clear, like they don't think that like anyone has done something to her. They just are like going through runaway, accident, stuff like that, self-harm. So with no signs of her, the search becomes more intense with them adding in tracking dogs and helicopters. So it starts to intensify over that weekend, but that's like a whole week later. On April 17th, so that's over 1 week after she was last seen, her father, Brian, said it doesn't look like she ran away. And this is echoed by Detective Randall Tompkins of the Carmel Police, who said, she told no one, as far as we know, not even her boyfriend or her closest girlfriends were treating it as more than a casual runaway. On April 20th, local papers carry an interview with a man named H.
Huh. Are we going to talk about H? Because, the initial thing.
Yeah, so because I always use an initial when someone's suspicious, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this guy, he becomes a very prominent part of this story. We're going to spend a lot of time with H. Now, H is this 31-year-old guy, and he works at the laundromat at the shopping center. He's reportedly the last one to have seen Robin, who he says he's known for about 6 months, which would have been close to around the same time that she started working at the ShopRite. He says that he actually knows her, though, through his girlfriend, and that's how he met her. He told reporters that on April 9th, Robin came to chat with him for about 5 to 10 minutes, and he said he was having problems with his girlfriend, and he was talking to Robin about it, and Robin listened. And finally she left. She said she needed to go call someone named James, and this was a person he didn't know. And he last saw her heading off across the parking lot. He said that was around 7:30 p.m. Of his assessment of her mood that night, H said, well, the last time I saw her, she was happy, she was fine.
So, first off, why would a 31-year-old be venting to a 17-year-old about their relationship? It's so weird. But anyway, secondly, is there actually somebody named James in her life? Do we know that?
So a James person in my research has not necessarily ever been identified. I don't know who James would be.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, on the Sunday after she disappeared, so 1 week later, H actually had attempted suicide by taking an overdose of sleeping pills outside his dad's home. So by the time the reporters found him to get these statements from him, he was at the Danbury Hospital in Connecticut receiving treatment. H sits down with reporters and he's actually quite chatty. He says he's actually been interviewed by police twice, and the stress of that, combined with what he called a custody dispute with his girlfriend, is what led to him attempting to take his own life.
So why were the police talking to him to begin with?
Right. Yeah. So, like, how do we come across this H guy?
Yeah, how does he become an interesting person?
Now, there's a few factors. One, he knew Robin, and he was working that night. So I'm guessing they're kind of canvassing, seeing who was there that night, who might have seen her. But in the course of their conversation, he does admit that he had spoken with her. But one of the other reasons that they're interested in him at this point is likely his criminal record, which at this stage is about 10 years long. He'd been arrested for doing things like burglary, but also there were some rape charges in his past. One that had been dropped just that February with the record sealed. So at the time, this wasn't revealed what it was. And another in 1991, which involved a 13-year-old who the papers at the time said recanted her testimony. That's not fully the truth of what happened, which we'll get into later in next week's episode, but there's some sexual assault stuff in his past. Nothing that he's been convicted for, but stuff
still there. Yeah.
So that's why he's been one of their targets. But despite all of that kind of alarming information, he's not named a suspect. And actually, he's arraigned later that month on stalking complaints from his former girlfriend. This is the girlfriend he said he had been talking to Robin about that night. So stuff is going on with that guy.
We'll be back in a moment.
And as the days pass, there's still no word from Robin or any indication of where she might be. 6 weeks into her disappearance, Detective Randall Tompkins says of Robin's case, most of it's chasing the wind, but we don't have anything else to chase.
But is it really? This guy seems pretty...
Like, he stands out to
Yeah,
me.
he does.
Yeah. And then on November 22nd, a hunter makes a startling discovery in the woods off Fields Corners Road, so this is actually not very far away. It's the skeletal remains of a girl, but it's not Robin Murphy. It's 12-year-old Josette Wright, who was a middle school student, who had gone missing in Carmel in October, 6 months before Robin. So this is now 13 months since she was last seen. Specifically, and this is extremely important, the date on record for Josette's disappearance was listed as October 3rd.
October 3rd?
Of the year prior, so 1994.
Okay.
Yeah.
So didn't you say before that this was like a kind of a small area?
Yes.
And now we have 2 girls missing?
Yeah, so this is a small town about roughly currently, I think it's like 35,000 people. Like, you know, there's like other towns in the area, but this is a small area to have 2 girls missing.
Because now they found Josette, which Josette is a really beautiful name, by the
Isn't
way,
it?
but it's so pretty. I don't think I've heard that before, but they were actually missing at the same time, which is just, yeah, that seems like a lot, right?
Yeah, so this is highly unusual. And like Robin, they had initially treated Josette's case as a runaway case. But with the discovery of her body, that obviously shifted to focus on homicide. And importantly here, due to jurisdiction, her case isn't handled by the Carmel police like Robin's was. It's now in the hand of the Putnam County Sheriffs. So there are 2 different jurisdictions.
But did they ever, like, think to connect the 2?
We're
at
going
this
to
point,
dig
or-
into this, but
Okay.
About information sharing and what might be going on. But yeah, so it's basically 2 investigations, same area, different.
2 different jurisdictions. Yeah. Okay.
Now, because of the condition of Josette's body, the exact cause of her death was hard to determine, though it was thought it was likely strangulation. Josette's arms had been tied behind her back, and brutally, her underwear was in a position that suggested that it had been at some point stuffed in her mouth. And her bra was covering her face, which was kind of wrapped around her jaw area. And I'm only mentioning these specifics because these details become crucial later. Now, 3 days after her body is found, police would pull over a vehicle with 19-year-old Anthony DePippo and 18-year-old Andrew Krivak inside. With them was their friend Dominic. So these are all local area teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony and Andrew were probably pretty well known to law enforcement in the area at this time. Like, both of them had dropped out of school. They're kind of causing problems around the area, mostly through like drug use and partying and that kind of stuff. So not violent things, but things like marijuana use and possession. And when they get pulled over, they have some drugs on them. Now, during questioning, Dominic says something that leads police to believe that Anthony and Andrew know something about Josette's murder. And in the coming weeks, the police start hounding Dominic because he seems like the key, right? Like, he might know something. Even though they have other leads and pieces of information coming in about Josette, they believe that, like, this is the break in the case. And by hounding, I mean it's intense. Like, Dominic was being pulled out of school so often, the principal asked investigators to stop. He even says that he lost his job because police were in so much, and he missed work so often due to questioning. Eventually, Dominic makes a startling confession. He says that he had been with Andrew and Anthony the night Josette was kidnapped. Dominic was careful in saying that he didn't witness a sexual assault or murder because he'd actually passed out from drug use, but he does make clear that this is what happened that night. He said that he, with several other people, notably 2 guys, William and Adam, and Anthony's girlfriend Denise, were there when this happened.
Okay, so it was Andrew, Anthony, Dominic, and then William, Adam, and Anthony's girlfriend
Yes.
that were all there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Dominic is like passed out.
Yeah, so Dominic was like, this thing happened. I didn't actually see it happen because I was passed out.
Yeah, so like they're saying that they kidnapped Josette, but like, okay, I don't know. I guess I'm confused because she's quite a bit younger than them, and these kids seem like all older teens. Dominic's saying he's passed out. How does he know, like, how was Josette linked to them? Did they just find her randomly, or?
Yeah, so it seemed like they knew each other, not closely, but it's a small town. So then he's saying, yeah, like Josette was there, and like that's what happened to her. I didn't actually witness it because I was passed out, but that's what happened.
So we just know that she was there, but they're kind of calling it a kidnapping.
Yeah, I mean, like, kidnapping in that, like, she was taken in a vehicle by 2 older teenagers and then ends up being sexually assaulted and murdered, right?
Yeah, or found that way
because he was passed out.
Because he was passed out. So we don't know who would have done that, right?
Right.
Huh.
So he provides this information, right? And using the same kind of tactics on both Denise, William, and Adam, police get witness statements from all of them, like saying that they witnessed something as well.
Okay.
Now, Adam, he quickly recants his statement. So he makes a statement and then he's like, I take it back. So the investigators try to get one of Adam's friends to convince him to recant his recantation, like take back his take back. But on this, he like ends up not budging. Now, Denise will provide the most detailed statements. She said she had gotten into Andrew's van and found Josette already inside.
Okay, I guess that's where I was like, yeah.
Yeah. And she said that like they all went to the Citgo gas station, which was kind of like a place where the teens would hang out. They would party in the woods behind it. And she said that after Denise, she witnessed the rape and murder of Josette by her boyfriend, which was Anthony, and also along with Andrew. She also provided statements about the 2 bringing Josette's body to the woods and hiding her body in the woods.
Okay, so I guess this is where I'm confused. Well, first off, there's a lot of A names. Geez, in the 90s, we need to ease up on the A names. But anyways, you don't usually say full names if somebody did anything like this.
You have to stick with the story here.
Okay, but I'm like, clearly these boys couldn't have done it because Amy's saying their names. Am I wrong?
No, I mean...
Do I need to stick with it? Do I need to just...
Stick with the story.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, but Denise...
But Denise says...
And Dominic.
But Dominic was passed out, so I don't really know.
Right. And then Adam originally says something, takes it back. William also provides a statement saying he witnessed something. Yeah.
But we did mention earlier that Anthony and Andrew usually just do, like, self-destructive things, like...
Yeah, so it's like,
But not, like... rapey, murdery things.
Right.
And we're saying their names.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
July 1st, 1996.
Okay.
Anthony and Andrew are arrested for the rape and murder of Josette. And police do reveal to the public that they have several eyewitness accounts of the brutal attack on the young girl. So we don't know it yet, but it's this group of teenagers, right? So those witnesses, they say they came forward with a, in the words of the police, sense of guilt. Now, Josette's mother told the papers, "I knew for a long time. We were waiting for these two people to be brought in. When you thought of all of the people Josette knew who could possibly do this, these were the ones that spring to mind." Now, Andrew's father, he remains steadfast in his support of his son. He says, "I know my son. There's no way he did this. The truth will come out and there will be one hell of a lawsuit." But soon after the arrests, Judith, Robin's mom, hears the news. She told reporters that she does not recognize their names, but because Carmel's a small town, there's still a possibility that Robin did know them. Like many, it's clear that she's wondering if there's a connection between Josette and Robin.
Right.
And earlier I said, we're going to talk a bit about the jurisdiction issues. And this is where we start to get a sense of a breakdown in communication between the two agencies, the one that was handling Robin's case and the one that was handling Josette's. This is the jurisdiction issue. So the Putnam County Sheriff's Office says they don't believe that the two are connected in any way. But Judith says it's very clear that she doesn't believe that the two agencies are sharing information. And this seems to be confirmed by Carmel when Randall Tompkins, who's with the Carmel police, he says the county didn't share information about Josette's case with them, though Carmel had sent over information to the sheriffs about Robin.
Okay.
Now, in 1997, Anthony and Andrew went to trial for the murder of Josette. These were done in separate trials. So sometimes they'll try a case together, but they did them separately. By then, Dominic had recanted. He said, "I take back what I said." But Denise, who's now Anthony's ex, she stuck to her story. In court, she testified that yes, she had witnessed the two rape Josette, kill her, and then leave the van to hide her body in the woods. And William, he also stuck by his statement that he'd been in the van when Josette had been picked up at the gas station, which is different than Denise's story.
Right, because she was already in the van
when they got station.
Denise at the gas station.
They took Denise to the gas station.
And Josette was already inside. Okay.
Now, he did say, though, that he knew that they had driven to Fields Corners Road, but he had been under the influence of drugs, and he had also passed out and had not witnessed the crimes specifically.
So the two other men, like teenage boys there, are passed out.
Yes.
And Denise is still sticking to this, but the van thing, the timing of Josette doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's just a lot going on, right? Now, this seems like a pretty open and shut case. There's eyewitness testimony, particularly from friends. And that's pretty much, bad enough. But also during questioning, Andrew Krivak had confessed to raping Josette. And though the defense argued that this statement had been coerced out of him, it didn't hold weight with the jury. Andrew was convicted, and shortly after, during his own trial, Anthony was as well. Both were sentenced 25 years to life in the second-degree murder of Josette Wright. And at the end of his trial, Anthony turned to Josette's mother and said, "I'm sorry you think I killed your daughter. Until you see I'm innocent, I will not stop fighting." Now, what does all this have to do with Robin, right? Now, sitting in the audience of Krivak's trial, so Andrew's trial, was Robin's mother, Judith, and she's drawn there by a need to witness and support Josette's mother. The two don't know each other, but she just wants to be there, right? But after the opening statements, the first witness takes a stand and describes the brutal rape and murder, and after that, she stops going. She said, "That wasn't my daughter, but it's hard to hear anyway." With answers in short supply about her own daughter's case, Judith turned to psychics, hoping to find any lead in her own daughter's disappearance. One cited a pond off Nichols Road, which was several miles from where Robin was last seen, and Judith said other psychics had kind of described a similar area to her, so they're all kind of matching up when they get to this location. So she's like, this must be it. And she said, "I think someone murdered her and dragged her over there and dumped her in the water or something." With very few leads to go on themselves, in 1997, the Kent Police Department and the Lake Carmel Fire Department, they searched the water. At the time, Randall Tompkins of the Carmel Police was interviewed about where the case stood and whether or not there was a suspect. And Tompkins said of possible suspects, at this point, he's a convenient suspect for everyone. I'm not sure he was the one. Now, to those in the loop, it felt like he was referring to H, who had long moved out of the area. But nothing had really come of a case against him, at least publicly, in years. So he's just kind of the specter of this case. He's the last one to have seen her. He's got this, like, sketchy past, right? Now, when the search for Robin in the pond turned up nothing, Tompkins said, "Unfortunately or fortunately, we didn't find anything. As long as she isn't found, you don't give up hope." Now, this sentiment was not shared by Robin's father, who really only saw this as another day without answers in his daughter's disappearance. He said, "I'm not glad they didn't find anything. I want to know. It's been too long. I want to put her to rest." In 1998, there's another search of the pond and the field off Nichols Road, this time with another diver in the water and metal detectors on land. Judith said, "I don't know if metal detectors will help, but it's good to know that people still care enough to search for Robin." And because the reality is that Judith had done a lot of searching on her own, combing the woods and fields around town looking for her daughter. In 1999, the New York State Police and the Carmel Police said that they were going to work in partnership on Robin's case, but emphasized that this wasn't new, just a, in their words, re-expansion of the cooperation. Like, yeah, if you can take any guesses on what that
Re-expansion of the
actually
cooperation. We're re-expanding the cooperation?
Yeah. It's not an expansion, it's a re-expansion. I don't know.
Okay.
But this does spur a look at the Tilly Foster mine, which is a flooded iron quarry just outside of Carmel. This seems to be initiated by a medium who says that he received messages from Robin that she was there. Now, the pit at the quarry is over 740 feet deep, and it's a well-known dumping ground in the community for like cars and junk until it was finally fenced off. Now, before this search, none of Robin's family was actually notified in advance that they were going to be going there and looking for her. Judith would later say, "It's hard not to get your hopes up. I would really welcome having her remains if that's what it comes to. I'd like to have a grave to visit." Judith described the experience of having a missing daughter as not living a normal life. It's like a never-ending nightmare. There's no justice, no grave, 5 years, and you see no results at all. And she laid the blame on the Carmel police for initially treating Robin's case as that of a runaway and not moving forward with arresting H. "I'm truly disgusted with the police work," she said. And then she added that she thought they'd messed up the case from the start and that they were just trying to cover their tracks. By then, she was driving around with a bumper sticker that said, "There's no justice in Carmel. Ask Robin." In response, the Carmel police chief at the time, who was Bruce Hart, said, "I kind of understand. She's a mother with a missing daughter. She has emotions and she has to direct those somewhere. There's no closure on her part. We'd like nothing better than to develop a suspect. Frankly, we don't have sufficient information to draw conclusions rather than suspicions. The family is free to make assumptions either directly or indirectly."
Do we know where H ended up during this time? Like, are we going to talk about that later? Like, where he ended up and what's happening there?
Yeah, so we're going to do a bit more of a deep dive into like who H is, what's going on with him in our next episode. But yeah, like, so essentially the police are saying like, yeah, you can suspect him, but until we have more information, like, we don't have a lot to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, though they did not find Robin in their search of Tilly Cole, police looked again in 2002, this time with a submersible. And Carmel detective Brian Karst said that they were hoping to get answers for her family. They said that they weren't just there because of the medium and insisted that they actually had physical evidence that suggested Tilly Cole, but refused to say explicitly what that evidence might be. And again, the search failed to find Robin. In 2005, which was the 10th anniversary of Robin's disappearance, Judith made clear how hard it was not to have a physical place to mourn her daughter. She was thinking about bringing flowers and leaving them at the utility pole on the Nichols Road, the area that she was convinced that her daughter's body had been left. "The worst part," she said, "is not knowing. I'll find out someday. I know that, but until we know for sure, I'll keep praying every day for God to show us.
Why does she think her body was left at that spot?
I think it's just, she's just left with so little.
Is she just trying to find like any space?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure this is a small town that there were a lot of rumors as well. Plus, you've got, the only people who she could get kind of information from seemed to be like psychics and mediums who kind of had suggested this as an area.
But then, like, what would have happened to it after that, you know?
Yeah. And then the police, it just seems like what becomes clear is like the police are just not really communicating with her either.
Or with each other.
Or with each other. There's like a communication breakdown. And so this would be like something, right? A place. Now, meanwhile, in prison, Anthony and Andrew are trying to get their cases heard again, right? Andrew, he has his conviction upheld on appeal. So he tries to appeal it. It doesn't really work. But Anthony was able to get a new trial, like a completely new trial. And he was able to prove that his original lawyer had previously represented H. And this is important because there is only a problem if Anthony could prove that H had been considered a suspect in Josette's murder. Now, though Josette's mother had told reporters that she was confident Josette didn't know H, other witnesses had said they'd seen Josette in H's vehicle and were able to accurately describe what that vehicle looked like. In fact, a witness placed Josette in the car at some point.
Like at other times other than the night she went missing?
Around the time she went missing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what should have happened in Anthony's case is that upon learning of the possibility that H was a suspect, right? The lawyer should have stepped aside due to a conflict of interest, having represented H in the past in other court cases.
Right.
Instead, he remained quiet. And when Anthony's case went to trial, the lawyer didn't use any of the evidence that pointed in H's direction. So that would have enabled reasonable doubt, right?
So he's just like, we're not going to talk about that.
So if it had been, could there have been reasonable doubt for the jury?
Yes.
Could the trial have ended in a different way?
Most likely, right?
Right.
I don't know.
And as I said, Robin's story becomes tangled up in so many ways that involved corruption, mishandling, and more. And her mom was right. There is no justice in Carmel.
We are now going to listen to Amy's poem, In the Dark Places, read by Nora McLellan. Nora is a Canadian actor with an extensive career across theatre, television, and film. A veteran of both the Stratford and Shaw festivals, she has earned 2 Dora Mavor Moore Awards, a Jessie Award, and multiple nominations, recognizing her versatility and craft. On stage, McLellan has starred in productions ranging from classics to contemporary hits, including Shirley Valentine, Anne of Green Gables, Hello Dolly, and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. At Stratford and Shaw, she has played leading roles in Cabaret, Gypsy, Saint Joan, The House of Bernarda Alba, and The Trojan Women, among dozens of others. Her screen work includes recurring and guest roles on Son of a Critch, Revival, Killjoys, Cardinal, Orphan Black, and Saving Hope. And her film credits include Sometimes the Good Kill, Tart, My Own Country, and Double Double Toil and Trouble.
In the Dark Places, Robin Murphy, 17, missing since April 9th, 1995, from Carmel, New York. They say the ramshackle engine of your heart doesn't know how to mourn, can't feel the wailing tremor of loss. But as blood pulses through your body, what else but the heart can remember the soft curve of your baby's cheek? The way her fingernails looked like half moons, her eyes lit up like stars. What else could hear her calling to you in the dark woods of the night? Every season, you know the intricacies of the ground. The way the grasses give way to mud, the slope of snow on the hills. You know every pathway through the cemeteries, the secret places littered with trash generations of teenagers left behind. Each thrumming beat of your heart a reminder that once you knew how to breathe.
For more information about our show, please visit shegoesbyjanepodcast.com.
Bye, Vanessa.
Bye, Amy.